Hello, this is State Senator Darius Brown, and thank you for joining me for Dialogue with Darius. We host this to engage residents of the 2nd Senatorial District and benefit Delawareans up and down the state around pertinent information that we believe will be valuable to you. We want to highlight today some information for small businesses in the light of COVID-19 and all that has transpired in our state and in our nation and world since March of this year. And so over the last 5 months, Delaware legislators, governor, and many of the governor's departments, including the Small Business Division of the Secretary of State Office, has been at the forefront of equipping and ensuring that small businesses in our state have the relief that they need and the supports that they need to be vibrant businesses and to sustain themselves during these turbulent and uncertain times. So today we have with us the Director of the Division of Small Business in the Secretary of State's Office. Damian, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Senator. Appreciate it.
So talk to us a little bit about what the world was like before the middle of March for you and your office.
It was, yeah, it seems like a long time ago.
Right.
It was definitely a lot different. I had been in the role for about a year and a half, and the agency, the division was only about 2 years old at that point. So we were really focused on kind of establishing ourselves in the small business landscape. You know, there's a lot of assistance out there for small businesses. The SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, does a lot of great work. SCORE Mentors, University of Delaware, DSU, and the things that they do to support their entrepreneurs, both students and graduates. So we were kind of trying to figure out, you know, where in that landscape we can play a role and not duplicate other efforts, but still help entrepreneurs. So we had stood up a program called Edge Grants, which was focused on getting grants to entrepreneurs in basically any field. We funded, you know, science and technology projects. We also funded folks who were trying to start a restaurant. So it was diverse. It was really fun. We had a panel of judges. It was sort of like our own little Shark Tank. We distributed about $1.5 million of funds in a year, a little bit less than a year, to 20 small businesses, all startups within 5 years of starting their businesses. It was great. And then COVID happened, and I mean, I'm a firm believer as a division director. You know, you always got to think about who your clientele is. Our clientele is small businesses, and you got to deliver a service to them that is valuable. And so when their needs change, you've got to be able to change with them, and that certainly happened after COVID. So, you know, the whole landscape was different all of a sudden, and didn't make sense to have an entrepreneur. I mean, that's a great program. We'd love to bring it back. We plan to bring it back one day, but it didn't make sense to have that be where we're putting our resources.
So as you've led through COVID, small business and strengthening Delaware's economy during this pandemic, talk to us a little bit about your department's response, and then also how the state has worked with the federal government and other partners.
Yeah, so we stood up a new program. We actually took the resources we were using for the Edge Grants and put them towards a program called Help Loans. And the idea was, we thought about, you know, going into the pandemic, a lot of these businesses, small businesses that were going to be significantly curtailed in what they could be doing. A restaurant, for instance, they've been, I think, some of the hardest hit. You know, they're going to not have revenue they can count it on, but they're still going to be facing expenses like rent payments, like insurance payments, like a utility bill. And if they're not able to make those payments, there's a chance they go out of business, they close their doors forever. And so the idea of Help Loans is giving them money at no interest that they can use to pay those expenses. It's been, you know, I think it's been really helpful for some of the businesses that have applied. We've distributed now about $5 million of funding and gotten about over 300 businesses enrolled in the program. Predominantly in the hospitality sector. I think half of the businesses have been restaurants, but we've also expanded it to include cosmetology businesses because of how hard they were hit as well.
Is this something that businesses can currently still apply toward or seek help from your department for?
The volume's a lot less than it was a few months ago, just because I think most of the people who've applied have, I mean, you could come back. It's a monthly program, so you apply each month. We don't want people to take out more debt than they need for their sake. So we've got about 300 people who come back each month and apply, but we're still getting, I'd like to say between 20 to 30 applications a month that we review. So yeah, if people want information the first time they're hearing about the program, we're still finding people who didn't know about it.
Right.
They can go to delbiz.com/coronavirus.
Okay.
All the information on the programs we're doing is there, but you can figure out how to apply there.
So in addition to your leadership and work that the Division of Small Business has done for the state, you also have worked with nonprofits and with the U.S. Small Business Administration, particularly around PPP and other resources for small businesses. So talk to us a little bit about how that worked, and what the difference is between the state support and what SBA provided, and then some of the other funds.
Yeah. The big difference between the support we provided and what the federal government did is theirs was a lot larger.
Absolutely.
They had, I like to tell people, they can print money,
right.
So they do things that we can't, which is great. When we launched the Help Loan program, there was no federal program at that point, but we sort of knew there would be, just because of how bad the problem was. And PPP, I think, there were some people that couldn't get it, but for the people that did, it made a huge difference in their survival. Right. And so the role we played in that, again, I don't duplicate a good effort. I also didn't have $1.5 billion to spend like the feds, but we just really tried to help people get connected with the resources, figure out how to apply for PPP. Every time they came in for a help loan, before they applied for the loan, we made sure they knew about PPP. We didn't want them to take out a loan from us if they could get their problem solved from the PPP loans converted to grants. Right. So it was much better than what we were able to offer. Right. So some people doubled up. Some people took out a PPP PPP loan, got it converted to a grant. Also took a help loan. Continue to take help loans. At the end of the day, it's about getting them cash, right. Because that's what they needed. That's what they still need. So.
And then I know there was some nonprofits that also through the federal government had resources that they were able to leverage as well.
Yeah, I know the Delaware Community Foundation stood up a strategic fund for nonprofits, and we're able to help a lot of nonprofits that way. In our office, if we get a lot of nonprofits, not necessarily the traditional nonprofit you think of, but there's nonprofit restaurants out there. There's nonprofit cafes. One of the good examples of that I know, I think they're in your district, Milk and Honey.
Yes.
Cafe. I mean, they're awesome,
right.
And they're basically, look like any small business. The owners just decided to run it as a nonprofit because he's got some social missions too that he'd like to take care of. That's great. So they're eligible for our programs. When you're in, we don't say because you're a nonprofit you're not eligible. So we've gotten people that have come through for help loans. It's just about what industry you're in. So you need to be a hospitality industry or cosmetology, and so. Otherwise, though, there's the strategic fund, and then the PPP loans were also open to nonprofits.
So as we've all transitioned through COVID, now your work has even gone even further through the relief program. So why don't you talk a little bit about the relief program and where your division is and providing those supports?
Yeah. So the Governor Carney announced last week that we'd be putting, in partnership with Newcastle County, putting together a $100 million fund to put out grants for small businesses. They're called the DE Relief Grants, and the grants are going to range. The minimum amount is $15,000, and then the maximum amount is $100,000. It's all based on the business's revenue from 2019. Targeted towards small businesses. One thing we are doing is we're targeting those who are hardest hit, and the way we're quantifying that is they have to be able to show a revenue decline, and what that allows us to do is it allows us to aim our resources at a smaller population, which means we can get them more resources. So it could, in my opinion, will be more likely to make a difference for those businesses that need it most. So we're launching that. I don't know when this is going to air, but we're launching that early September, so we're about a week, 2 weeks away from being able to launch it. It's going to be a website that they'll be able to apply through, which will streamline the whole process, make it easier on the businesses to get through to the office. We're expecting high volume, so keep our processing times down around 3 weeks. So we're excited. For the businesses that have been hit hardest by this, by the pandemic. I don't know that it's going to be a silver bullet. It's not going to solve all their problems, but hopefully it's helpful, and it helps them, get through the next few months. And hopefully we turn it around soon. I mean, hopefully I don't know about you, but I'm hoping this we get out of this eventually.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So in this work and defining small business, how is it defined? Nonprofits, churches, mid-sized firms, small firms, manufacturing. How is it defined under the DE relief?
For the DE relief grants, we use the SBA definition, which varies from industry to industry. They take a percentile of the average size of that industry. The easiest way for people to think about it is if you qualified for a PPP loan, they use the same criteria, so you'll qualify for this program. The one caveat there is if you receive the PPP loan in excess of $1 million, then you won't qualify for our program, at least initially, because we want to target to either people who receive less in PPP or didn't receive any PPP grants, PPP loans. But most PPP recipients, I think about 90% in Delaware, received less than $1 million. So it's really we're going to reach most of that small business community.
And then, of course, emphasis for myself is around minority businesses, women-owned businesses, ensuring that they're a part of the pipeline to have those technical supports and things of that sort to apply for these relief dollars. So I want you to tell them how they can reach you. I'm sorry that you're about to get a bunch of emails and phone calls.
No,
but it's,
they all go to my staff.
Right.
So.
it's intentional that way to just make sure that everyone is getting this information in many different mediums.
Yeah.
Not everybody read the newspaper. Not everybody gets the email. Not everybody watches Dialogue with Darius.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can get them through one of those vehicles or other mediums to make sure they know this information and they're able to benefit from it. So.
Well, first, Senator, let me just say, I think it's great that you do this because it does help. We did a webinar that you set up for minority business owners for the PPP loans.
Right.
And I think what actually stuck with me from that webinar was, I want to say it was a month after the program had launched, and so many people on that call, it was the first they were hearing about it. So clearly we're not doing a good enough job reaching certain communities in our state, and we have to do better.
Right.
And so we're doing a couple things with these grants to try to make sure that stuck with me personally, and so when we designed this, we kept that in mind. One, we're making the funding available in stages, and it's a third of the funding each time, so that just because you, for whatever reason, know about this right away, you're not necessarily, you might get in the September round when somebody doesn't know about it, but if we get in a situation where 3 weeks on, people still don't know about it, they didn't necessarily lose out because October is going to come around and the same exact amount of funding is going to be available again, so they'll be starting from scratch basically.
Okay.
And then throughout this period, we're going to try to be spreading the word through educational webinars, through our social media, an advertising campaign, any help we can get from those in the legislature like yourself. Great that we're doing this today. Will be helpful. We're doing webinars for counties. We did some yesterday, but then again, knowing that there are segments of the business owner population who we need to do a better job reaching, we're going to target those segments as well. So today, we're doing a webinar specifically for minority business owners. We'll be doing them for women business owners. We're doing that before the September launch. We'll do it again in September before the October launch. We'll do it again in October before the November launch. Because to me, it's not we can't go with the excuse of we tried to get the message out. We've got to get the message out to these businesses. We know from the PRAC how there was disproportionate impact by industry. There was also disproportionate impact in minority communities, and it would be unacceptable for us to get this money out there and not get it to some of those business owners that need it.
So I appreciate you making the time to join us on Dialogue and sharing what your office has been doing to help us during COVID-19. Thankful to the leadership of the governor and to the Secretary of State and yourself. And then these relief dollars that will now be available to help small businesses up and down the state are very important. So before we close, just want you to be able to give some closing remarks and share how individuals can reach your office.
Yeah, so they can go to delbiz.com/relief, which is a specific page. I said we can go to delbiz.com/coronavirus. That has everything,
Right.
but we've got a lot of different stuff out there. Delbiz.com/relief is specifically dedicated to the relief grants, which is the newest program we have. So you can go there to find out information. There's contact information to our office. So you can always send an email if you have a question and you want to know something that might not be on the site. You can sign up for these webinars on that site. There'll be all the information about them. When we have the launch date, we'll have that. So I just encourage you to go, if you're listening to this today and you're wondering where to continue to engage and find out information, just go to that website. You can also follow us on social media at Delaware Small Business. That's our social media tag.
Yep. I follow them on social media. I am encouraging you to follow them on social media, and please contact the Division of Small Business, as we want to ensure that all of these resources you are informed about and are available for small businesses in the state and specifically in the 2nd Senatorial District, which I represent, to ensure that everyone has the supports they need as we get through this global pandemic. So again, I want to thank Director Damian DeStefano of the Division of Small Business for joining us for dialogue.
Thanks for having me, Senator.
And look forward to seeing you all again as we continue this conversation.